Let's go to the phones. Sleepy Salsa. Sleepy Salsa, you're on Free Talk Live on Skype.
Hey, thanks for bringing me on.
Sure. What's on your mind?
Well, I heard you folks, and apparently I think something that's kind of been overlooked is something that the government doesn't really want people to know about, and only a couple of voluntarists have mentioned it, but it's apparently a legal process, more or less vernacularly known as unregistering from the voter rolls.
Let's hear about this. Just hold the line if you would. Let's go back to Skype and back to Sleepy Salsa. Sleepy Salsa, you on Free Talk Live?
Yes, hi. Well, I mean, I was hearing you folks before the break mentioning about, like, what can we do to appeal to people? How do we spread the message of liberty and so forth? Well, I think what's kind of important to first understand is that there are a lot of, the list of grievances is long and varied, I think would be more than fair to say.
Against whom?
This enemy rebel government that claims to dictatorially want to control every single aspect of your life from cradle to grave, I think would be best place to start and really focus on. So in terms of spreading the message of liberty, in terms of really teaching and most importantly, living the philosophy of liberty, I think what's kind of important is to present people with options. Remembering, like, the free market, it's all about having that selection, pleasing the customer and so forth.
Sure.
And I think one option among many that I've been able to find is something more of a legal procedure, but it's vernacularly been referred to as unregistering from the voter rolls. Now, obviously, one would have to check one's state statutes, and I know you good free staters up there would have to look at New Hampshire's RSAs to see whether it's possible there.
As I understand it, it's not particularly easy to do.
That's not correct. That is not correct.
Well, I mean, I'm just telling you what my experience here is that people have...
Have you tried to do it, Mark?
I have not. My experience listening to people who have tried to do this.
Okay.
Russell Canning, an activist that was here, attempted to do it, and basically they told him, nope, we don't have a system for that.
We don't have a form for that.
Yeah, sorry, no form.
Yeah.
Can't get there from here.
Honestly, this is something I would like to do. So what's the process? I mean, it may be different from place to place, but what's the basic process?
Sure, and it depends on what the statutes are under whichever state government you are. So I can only speak as far as Texas goes because that's where I'm kind of stuck at the moment. But it's in the Texas Election Code. Specifically, I believe the reference was section 16.013A and 16.036, and maybe a few of the other sections roughly around there. But it's in the Texas Election Code. The government here refers to it as canceling your voter registration. And they pretty much laid it out very simply. And I said, wow, I kind of have a problem with this government and I don't really want to consent to it anymore. So maybe this could be possibly a way of, even if only symbolically, but it's still an official legal procedure. And so I decided to test it. And I did this last year. And I sent a letter off to the voter registrar for the county where I originally registered when I was foolish enough to do that, because I still believed in the system. I still believed in reformism. And
we've all been there.
We've all been there.
Don't worry.
I disagree entirely with the foundation of your premise, but I'm interested in you unregistering.
In terms of the okay, fine. In terms of the method, then I got a letter back from the voter registrar, and it said notice of cancellation. It said a bunch of things, but at the very beginning it says, "Dear voter, notice is hereby given that your voter registration has been canceled in," it says name of county, "on April 10th of 2013." And
it's
then it goes
weird
on,
that they would address you as voter after you just unregistered.
You should sue them
dear
for
non-voter.
slander.
Don't call me that.
It's probably all in a Microsoft Word template. That's probably why.
But I proved it could work, and I've been, admittedly, I've been bragging to many of my friends about it and telling them, now I can't say about the other 49 states of the union, but I can say about Texas anyway. There's also apparently a tangential benefit I found out last week when I was doing, when I was learning more about jury nullification, which I know a lot of you good folks like to spread the good word about up there in New Hampshire. And apparently, I was able to contact the federal government. And they told me that when they are putting people on the jury wheel, they only draw from the voter registration lists of the several state governments. They do not tap into or consider anyone on the lists who still maintain a driver's license. Because remember, many of the several state governments, Texas I know for certain, basically takes the list from DPS, which is basically the DMV equivalent.
So
Well, the driver's license.
I'm confused. Does that mean that unregistering to vote means that you will not be able to serve you will not have the
Not on a
opportunity?
federal jury, right?
Not on a federal jury, no. So I'm free of that. I am free.
That's
Well,
awesome.
assuming they told me the truth. Assuming they told me the truth, I am free of that. Now, if it was Texas, because I still maintain my driver's license, unfortunately, because it is an infringement on my right to travel, they can grab me and throw me on the jury wheel just for that alone. Now, of course, as far as folks who understand like FIJA's literature and all that, the jury wheel, spins you around and then it just spits out names and then you get a summons. And then that's where the coercion of the government comes in with threatening you with fines if you don't
you
respond
like
to
jury
summons.
nullification, but you're happy that you're not going to be able to help somebody who might be charged with an immoral charge?
You have to keep in mind that the libertarian position, as far as juries go, has always been split, right? Because you have the FIJA position, which has always been, get on a jury and nullify, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the other position, which I'm kind of surprised almost nobody mentions, is the polar opposite, was actually Murray Rothbard's position, which was that he viewed jury duty, not nullification, but jury duty as a type of, and yes, he said it in For a New Liberty, indentured servitude.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, in
Totally
fact,
with you on
that's
that.
the position I take, and I've gotten flack for it.
I'll give you flack over it. So
Go ahead, Mark.
I've gotta
You want
say-
to conscript me to be on a jury against my will?
Well,
I mean,
in 49 states, they tell me I have to wear a seatbelt. In New Hampshire, they don't because I'm an adult and I don't have to wear it. But I wear it in all 50 states because I don't wish to die. So it doesn't, to me, particularly matter whether it's something I'm forced into doing or not doing. For me, it's about something I want to do or not do.
but what if not everybody wants to be on a jury? Like,
Indeed.
I would rather be helping take care of myself financially to support myself. And I'm not interested in, at a loss to me, paying money to get gas, drive 2 hours to this courthouse, show up at 8 in the morning, which is an hour I never see, being on the self-employed schedule, because I work at night.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just not interested in doing that.
I don't think you have any obligation to, but I think that there's this this cultural give and take that goes on, that if you want help from people, you need to lend help. So any one of us can end up in the clutches of these power-hungry people for whatever variety, more laws than what anyone can read in 4 lifetimes. Any one of us can end up there. I personally would like somebody who wants to nullify my jury, because it's not going to be a crime with a victim in all likelihood. So a victimless crime, I would like them to nullify that. And if no one's there to do it,
It's not the only way to help someone.
I'm not claiming it is
You can
the
help
only way to
someone
help.
outside of the jury duty system.
But it's a real rubber hits the road opportunity to help someone, like right there.
There are opportunities whizzing by all the time.
Indeed.
Just whether you grab
I think
them or not.
salsa showed a great piece of freedom everybody could go after. I love
I think
the call.
Salsa farted in a jar. Congratulations.
What?
You got off
No
the
way.
roll. That's right. Let's go back to Sleepy Salsa. So I gave Sleepy Salsa a good stinging on the way out and said that I really don't think that this unregistering from the voting rolls, besides when it comes to jury duty, I can see that. I mean, if you really don't want to help anybody who's been charged with a victimless crime, you can get off of jury duty by...
You don't want to help them in that particular way.
Yeah, when they need it the most. If you don't want to help them when they need it the most, then you can get out of
No. I think there's a third option or a third part that's getting misconstrued and not considered when it comes to this jury duty thing. I totally agree with Salsa about the fact that, with Murray Rothbard's point that it is, in a way, it's conscription.
I have not argued that point.
No,
it is
right.
conscription.
Right.
So is making someone
So
wear a
it's
seatbelt.
so
All
it's
right.
okay to be conscripted into something as long as it's a good deed.
Okay.
No.
No. All right, here, listen. Now, let's compare this to Comcast. If Comcast gives you terrible service, what do? Do you keep using them?
Well, I mean, ultimately, no.
Yeah, not if you can help it.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not going to... Now, look, who likes to go and do jury duty? Nobody does.
But if Comcast came and kidnapped one of my friends and all I had to do was show up one day and listen to somebody yammer on and then I could get my friend free, I might do that.
Right, but if you keep taking part in that, you are not sending the signal to the system that this is a crap way of getting justice.
That signal isn't
because
working,
what are they
Brian.
paying you, $10? That's because people are doing it out of like some kind of I don't know why they're even
They're
still
doing it because they're bored.
Because it's involuntary servitude. Why they're doing it?
Some people go because they have to. Some people go because they're nosy. Some people go to rescue folks.
Well, I don't want 2 out of those 3.
Agreed.
And in fact,
And
only
the lawyers,
one of those.
the lawyers want the ones that are nosy.
Right, only one of the
Agreed.
people. There's probably a lot more than just 3 different types of people. Out of all the different types of people that you could possibly have going to a jury, and there's plenty of them, the only one I'd want is the one that wants to rescue somebody, but they are in such a small minority. I would much rather get
They
the
don't get
message
on
out
juries.
there. I would much rather get the message out there to say, look, this whole jury thing, we gotta send the message out there that this is a bad service, or at least people should get paid a whole hell of a lot more for doing it. And no one's talking about it in that way, that this is a crap service that we should be boycotting, not getting involved in, and trying to rescue people with. Because honestly, if the
it's
state
not a
wants
service, Brian.
it's a government service.
It's not a
That is
service.
It's not a service.
It's kidnapping in many cases, and you
Then
can try to
all-
rescue somebody
then
or not.
All the more reason to not want to be a part of it if it's a kidnapping.
Brian, I completely agree with you. Thank you for that. But
It's
Mark,
like
at least
walking over a wallet that you found on the sidewalk. You have no moral obligation to
None
pick it
whatsoever.
up and return
no,
it to
it's
somebody.
not. It's not like walking over a wallet. It's like crossing over a moat to walk over the wallet. And I mean, because there's a cost involved in
There
going
is.
to
It's a
jury
lot
duty.
of work to save somebody from a victimless crime, and many people aren't worth the trouble. However, I would
There's
love
no
it.
guarantee that it's even a victimless crime.
There's no, there's not. In which
There's
case,
no guarantee that you're even going to get on the jury.
nope, none of that. It's a lottery. There's no doubt.
But
It's
there is a
lottery to save
guarantee that
people.
you're going to sacrifice your personal
No
principles.
guarantee of that. I've never
Oh,
been
yeah.
called for jury duty.
You know, I got a letter.
Well, not
I
here.
got called for jury duty once, and the letter noted that I had to dress a certain way with decorum. I wasn't allowed to wear tank tops, and this was in June. And I was
And
supposed
you were going to wear your pasties.
show up in
So-
July.
right. And
Pasties, yeah, real cute. Porcupine pasties.
Salsa, we've been
And I'm
talking
gonna
all
go
over
fart
you.
in a jar like you accused Salsa of doing.
Is he there
No, no.
still? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's great, and yes, there's kind of the old joke Sam Konkin mentioned back in '85 in Los Angeles, where when you get a bunch of libertarians in a room, everyone's got as many definitions of libertarianism as there are libertarians and so forth. But no, I think it's good and healthy because that's how you have a free marketplace of ideas, and compare and contrast and kind of go from there. Something else too.
But what have you done by unregistering from the voting rolls, disallowing sort of jury conversation from the topic? Like, what's the point?
Well, okay. Well,
You don't get those
actually,
annoying political mailers either. That's
Please.
another thing.
Everybody gets
Well,
them.
Well, in terms of, I only found out about the jury duty thing pretty much like last week. And I did this like a year and a half ago.
Mhm.
So the reason I was doing it was, and it's still something I'm slowly working on and learning about, is it kind of goes back to the consent of the governed. And the first question you have to ask is the consent of the governed collective or individual? Now, obviously, if the answer turned out to be collective, then we're kind of screwed in a lot of ways. However, if the answer is that it's the individual consent to be governed,
This is
then
what
the
their
next
ruling
question-
documents often will say, that government, here in New Hampshire,
Is derived
government of
from the
right comes from the consent of the governed. And I, for one, do not give the state of New Hampshire the right to govern me. But I do, when given the opportunity, vote in their elections to make one small, drop my little pebble.
That's where I see where you're wrong, Mark.
Well,
I mean,
You and I are equally governed by the state of New Hampshire, and I vote and you don't. So you can't claim that voting is somehow consent or not consent.
well, it's hard to argue that, I'm not giving them my moral support, but I am going to participate in their game.
It's not moral support. People, I'm not voting for their laws. I'm voting against their laws.
But you're still participating in their game. Like, is freedom ever on the ballot, Mark?
Freedom is sometimes on the ballot when you have very freedom-oriented
Really?
candidates. When the
Assuming-
New Hampshire Liberty Alliance endorses somebody with an A+, freedom is on the ballot.
assuming the correct answer was individual consent of the governed, then the follow-up question then becomes, what is the nexus that determines, what is the legal standard of proof that determines that consent to be governed? I mean, what's the standard? And I've seen all sorts of answers that may be true, maybe not, and it's still something I'm still trying to evaluate. But the unregistering from the voter rolls seems to, quite frankly, be, if not the total answer, and I don't think it is the total answer because I'm still licensed to drive and there's things more along those ends with infringing on the right to travel and so forth. then therefore there must be something else. I've heard other people suggest that maybe it's the citizenship itself that might possibly be the nexus. And
well,
for
come
example,
on. You
this
know
makes
as well as I do that the government doesn't recognize their documents. They don't look at these things and say, oh, well, he doesn't give us his consent. Well, I guess we can't rule over him.
Well,
I wasn't allowed to vote in Florida. I'm disallowed from voting in Florida now. If I move back to Florida, I'm not allowed to vote. I'm a convicted felon. I'm too dangerous to vote in Florida. Believe me, they aren't allowing me to opt out of their system.
Well, why don't you have to abide by the laws of Brazil or Ecuador?
Because I don't live in the geographic landmass known as Brazil, and the governments that we have are evolved from fiefdoms and kingdoms and duchies and baronies and these sorts of things that owned land.
This is actually a great point, though. I mean, if you really don't want to give your consent, I suppose you could always go permanent traveler. Just keep.
Some people have tried going more the. I can't think of the exact legal term, but yes, Stephanie, there is more that route, kind of like what some of the American Indians were originally before they became like either BIA Indians or whatever. Actually, the traditionals are actually still that way too. Where denizen. That's
denizen. Yeah, exactly.
So that is one approach. Some people have had success with that. Some people have
not.
What
kind of success?
It does require.
Well, you don't have to pay taxes.
Mixed.
I mean, you can go and
you
live.
can choose not to pay taxes anyway.
You know
Millions of people in America don't.
Salsa
opted out of voting.
You could be a povertarian too.
Salsa had said at the beginning of his call that even if it's just symbolic, and honestly, I think that's reason enough, because if we change our minds, which is where all change has to start.
Nobody likes jury duty.
No, hold on. If we change our minds and stop thinking about ourselves as the United States, okay, by getting out of these voter rolls, I think that's very powerful in and of itself
I agree.
to deregister.
It probably makes the most difference to you. And
that's the only one it made a difference to. You can put the lid on the jar and save it.
But isn't that what matters?
It is what matters.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.